Put your questions and comments down below in the comments section. We'll begin in just 1 minute. Now. Okay, let's get started. Welcome back. This, I believe, will be the last week before Supergirl starts. I believe Supergirl starts this coming Monday. Don't quote me on that. I have to check. I have not yet decided if I'll be reviewing Supergirl every week. I'll certainly talk about the pilot at least. But I think 3 shows is a nice, comfortable number. Anywho, we got 3 shows here. If you want to sound off on any of them, just put your thoughts down below in the comments section. If you're joining us for the first time this week, this is where I talk about all the weekly comic book shows, minus the ones I don't watch. Sorry, Walking Dead fans. I review them, and then we talk about them. So I go one show at a time. I give my thoughts, then I give your thoughts in the comments, and then we move on. And afterward, we talk about anything I missed. And as usual, we are going to start with The Flash. Flash Season 2, Episode 3, which aired this past Tuesday. Family of Rogues. Golden Glider, sister of Captain Cold, comes to Team Flash for help finding her brother, who has gotten himself into a sticky situation with their asshole father. Iris's absentee mother wants back in her life for reasons that are really, really dumb. Patty Spivot is super into Barry, and it looks like the feeling is mutual, and Harrison Wells from another universe shows up at the end. By the way, did they ever actually explain why they call Lisa Snart Golden Glider? Because she doesn't actually glide on anything. I don't know. What we have here is a really good concept for an episode. Barry having to go undercover in a group of criminals to help one of his most wily enemies in order to save someone's life. Great setup. Unfortunately, in the execution, a lot of it just falls apart. And what we're left with is an episode with a lot of potential that was ultimately dragged down by an alarming number of little details that were just incredibly stupid. Let's talk about the good things first. I confess I really don't care about Iris's mommy issues, though it seems like her mom is the one with the issues. But this is a storyline for Iris that does not involve her being part of some chemistry deficient love triangle. So I'll give it a chance. And I'll say that the scene with her and Joe, where they talked about this, was terrific, mostly due to Jesse Martin acting his ass off. But, Iris was there too, so we'll give her some credit for that too. Barry and Patty Spivot continue to be very cute in their scenes together. I think the writers are this close to overdoing it a little bit, but the chemistry between these two really works, and I'm totally buying it so far. The opening scene, great sequence here. Iris calls Barry. Barry, there's these guys shooting at me. I need your help. Iris, jump out the window. The building's clear across town. Doesn't matter. I'm the Flash. Just jump. I'll catch you. And he does. And it's a really fucking cool sequence. The visual effects were awesome. Great stuff here. Then Barry runs into the building, takes out two guys with guns, and runs back out, all in like 2 seconds. Here's where I have a problem. If Barry can just take out two guys with guns that quickly and that easily, then why the fuck does he always have such a problem with Captain Cold and Heatwave, who are just two guys with guns? Fancy high-tech guns, yes, but still essentially just two normal dudes with guns. There are times when Cold has outsmarted Barry, and that's when it works. But in a straight-up fight, why does Barry always seem to have so much trouble with these guys when he can beat other people with guns so easily? And here's where all the stupid begins. And instead of my usual routine, I'm just going to list these things off one by one. Iris's mom comes back some 15 years after Joe told Iris that she died because she was a reckless drug addict or something. That's not so stupid, but she's back because she thinks Iris needs her because Eddie died, and Iris cannot possibly be all right with the love of her life now dead, and Iris must be an emotional wreck and desperately needs her mother because her mother is the only one who could possibly help Iris through this. Forget about the fact that Iris has thought her mother was dead for the last 15 years and seems to have gotten along very well without her. Forget that Eddie died 6 months ago, and Iris seems perfectly fine with that now, doesn't appear to be bothered by it at all anymore. Now, if this was all a cover story and her mom is back for some other reason, good. That's what I hope is going on here. But if her mom is actually being genuine about this lame-ass sob story, then this is a bunch of bullshit. Looks like we're back to Barry's powers being wildly inconsistent and changing depending on the needs of whatever situation he finds himself in. Just minutes after he effortlessly took out two guys with guns, he gets subdued by Captain Cold like he's nothing at all. It wasn't even a trap. Him and Cold talk for a minute, then Cold just points his gun at him, and boom, he's down. And then later, Cold's dad shoots Barry, and Barry catches the bullet in midair like it's the easiest thing in the fucking world. Any other time he faces a guy with a gun, he's like a fucking god. But when Captain Cold points a gun at him, suddenly he can't do a goddamn thing. He's a little consistency with this stuff really too much to ask for. Right after this, they try to go for some emotional pathos with Golden Glider, even though they had just stressed, not 30 seconds earlier, that she's a criminal, her whole family are criminals, and they have absolutely zero reason to trust her. And yet, when she tells us this sob story, it's supposed to pull on our heartstrings. It's not really how it works. Later on, Barry goes undercover with Captain Cold and his dad. Hi, I'm Sam. I'm your new tech guy for this diamond heist you're doing. And that's all the information that Louis Snart needs, apparently. This is a guy who was so obsessed with this job that he put a bomb in his daughter just to force his son to help him pull it off. And he doesn't look into Sam's background to see if he's got a reputation as a reliable tech guy. He doesn't talk to Cold about this for even a minute. He's just like, okay, fuck it. You're in. Let's go steal some diamonds. Is it just me, or did that all seem way too fucking easy? Like, hilariously easy. When they break into the vault, the diamonds are guarded by a laser grid. You know what lasers are? light beams. Snart neutralizes them by freezing them with his cold gun. Yeah. He uses his cold gun to freeze light beams. I repeat, he uses his cold gun to freeze light. Light! I can't even begin to list all the reasons why that wouldn't work. When they finished this speed cannon thing to send Jay Garrick back to Earth 2, they're all acting like it would be a one-way trip and they'll never see Jay again for some reason. Was anyone else confused by this? Why would he be unable to come back? Zoom has been able to come and go between dimensions as he pleases, so obviously there's a way to do it. I mean, Jay already came over from Earth 2 to this dimension. Clearly there's a stable portal between Earths 1 and 2 somewhere in the city, so why would Jay not be able to return? I don't understand that. No, I don't want to install this update right now. Remind me tomorrow. There. But then, the dumbest fucking thing in the whole episode. They let Golden Glider leave. They just let her take off on her motorcycle. Never mind the fact that she's a criminal guilty of, at the very least, assault and battery, armed robbery, breaking cold and heat wave out of an armored car that was taking them to prison, and probably a bunch of other stuff, too, that I'm not remembering from Season 1. They just let her leave. They don't try to arrest her, don't try to do anything. And I don't think you can still play the card of Cold still holding Barry's identity over their heads, because Cold just allowed Barry to capture him and send him to prison. So clearly something has changed about that situation. But no, they just let her leave. I guess because the writers thought that teasing a ship between Golden Glider and Cisco was a cuter ending to this situation than Team Flash acting like rational human beings and arresting the dangerous criminal and having her charged with all the crimes that she's committed. If there was a reason why they couldn't do that, they needed to tell us what that reason was. But they didn't. So I'm calling bullshit. A really problematic episode here. There was a good setup and some good ideas, but in execution, the whole thing just became a hot mess. Harrison Wells showing up at the end was cool. Barry's talk with Cold at the end was a nice little precursor for Legends of Tomorrow, but there was way too much stupid here for that to make a difference for me. Sorry. If you have anything to say about The Flash, now is your chance to do so in the comments section. But before we get to that, I have some questions from Twitter, or some comments from Twitter, that I actually got last week that I forgot to bring up in the show. So I'm going to do that now. So at Striffin19, I apologize for not getting to your stuff last week. It just slipped my mind. But these are from Striffin19. I know who Zoom is. It's none other than Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town. Think about it. Jay said that Zoom wanted to be the best, and the first line in the OG Pokemon is, "I want to be the best, LOL." Just kidding. But in all seriousness, I think there are three possibilities for who Zoom is. First, we have a parallel version of Barry from Earth 2. The reason for this comes from the fact that they have a storyline in The Flash where a future version of Barry wearing a blue costume comes back to fix mistakes he had made in the past. The second is Earth 2 Harrison Wells, who might actually be Earth 2 Eobard Thawne, considering he showed up when Jake got his powers. The last is Earth 2 Eddie Thawne, who possesses the blue flame, an item in the comics which could steal the Flash's speed. Okay, I don't know anything about that, because I don't read the Flash comics. I will take your word for it. But let's see what you guys have to say about The Flash in the comments section. Gore492. Barry is consistently inconsistent with his powers. Yes, he is. Very much so. I'd say it's more like the writers are inconsistent with his powers, but yeah, absolutely. It's one of my big gripes with this show. JimCon1479. Have you ever watched Star Trek or SG-1? I've watched Star Trek on and off. I wouldn't say I'm a Trekker, but Trekkie, excuse me. I've seen, enough episodes of the various series to get the gist. Wasn't a big fan of SG-1. Saw an episode here and there. Wasn't really for me. I preferred Star Trek Atlantis, and Stargate Universe was really damn good, I thought. It's a shame it only lasted 2 seasons. But SG-1 never really interested me. That gaming asshole wrote us a book. I literally can't believe that they decided to help Cold and Golden Glider seemingly for no discernible reason, and try to act like she's this innocent victim of their father. First, I have no reason to believe that she actually was abused, and she's already being shown as a pathological liar. Thank you. Yeah, when she's telling us, how my father abused me and this thing, and Cisco was, let me talk to her. I've got a thing with her. We understand each other. And she's telling us this story, and they're playing this sad music. I'm like, really? You just told us that she's a career criminal. Her whole family are career criminals, so we have no reason to trust her, and now we're doing this? Really? And this is after she told them that, my brother's missing. I think he needs help. I think he's screwed up in some bad shit. And they find Cold, and the first thing Cold does is attack Barry. So they have no reason to trust this woman at all. They gave her a chance, and it turned out poorly. And now we're doing this. I'm right with you on that one. Secondly, even if I accept that she was abused by her father, apparently it has nothing to do with the fact that she's an unrepentant murderer. Yeah, pretty much. The episode starts with a flashback previously on segment whatever, where we see her freeze a guy solid and kill him. She's killed at least 6 people we know about. Who gives a shit if she dies or if her brother is in danger? They're psychopaths. Let them die. Oh, what's that? Just release her at the end and tell Cold he's really good inside. Sure, why the hell not? Christ. No comment necessary. The reason it seemed too easy to outsmart General Winter is because it was so rushed. No argument so far. I have no idea what to even say about the frozen laser thing. I mean, that's so ridiculous that it doesn't even merit discussion. I guess you could argue that he froze the lens mechanism, but that's just as retarded since the heat of the laser would render any kind of moisture into steam before it could possibly freeze, and no moisture means no ice, so yeah. Yeah, I think, honestly, I think at this point they're just making the science up as they go along. They're just pulling this out of their ass. I think in the season 1, when I reviewed the season 1 finale, I asked who the fuck is a technical advisor on this show. At this point, I don't think they even have one, because this stuff is really fucking pushing it. He froze light beams. How do you even? How does that even make sense in your head before you write it? I don't. What the fuck, man? Please, Jesus Almighty, let them pull the trigger on Flash in Hot Pursuit and drop this Iris bitch. In the comics, I believe there was some unrequited love between the two speedsters. Then she tells him how she feels, and Iris may have overheard this. Then eventually, in between Flashpoint and the New 52, he apparently has left his wife, or their relationship has deteriorated, and Hot Pursuit and the Flash are a couple. Somewhere in between the Flash and the New 52. Well, you lost me right there, man. I mean, you try to unravel all that shit. I mean, I was confused by DC Comics continuity before, but then the New 52 happened, and I don't think even the writers know anymore. Uh, Costelletius. One theory why Jay has no powers is that on Earth 1, Barry has siphoned off all the Speed Force. Okay, possibly, but Zoom still seems to have his powers on Earth 1. Though I don't think we've actually seen Zoom run at super speed in Earth 1 yet. Yeah, I guess that's a possible theory. Let's see. Zach Harris, how's it going? Pretty good, I guess. Costelletius, here's a thought. Supposedly, Ronnie became one with the Firestorm Matrix, compelling Professor Stein to find a new host, so to speak. Possibly, I guess. I think Ronnie just died, personally, but I guess that leaves a door open for him to come back. Who knows? The Save Me one. We saw the beginning of the Captain Cold face turn. I am interested to see how they pull this off. Well, they could try and redeem him, but he's still a criminal who's still looking at tons of jail time. Guess if he's off time traveling, that wouldn't matter. The Save Me one. I don't like the Cisco and Lisa thing. Guys like Cisco don't get girls like that. Most of the time, yeah. Plus, she's like 6 inches taller than him. It's just weird. It could be wrong. I mean, she's probably a little older than him. I mean, I don't get the feeling that she's interested in him. She's just kind of humoring him. But yeah, that's. Plus, she's a fucking criminal. I mean, there's no future here. It's pretty dumb. The Save Me one. Those Flash girls move on quickly, don't they? Give them 6 months, and it's like their husbands and fiancés never existed. Yeah, they do seem to have moved on quite quickly, haven't they? At least in Caitlin's case, she'd already gone through a grieving process for Ronnie already, so she was probably already halfway there. But Iris, yeah, it's as if she wasn't really into Eddie at all. 6 months later, she's totally fine. Oh, but she must be an emotional wreck. She lost the love of her life, and only her mother can help her. Bitch, she's fine. Has she shown the slightest? Has she shown that she is bothered by Eddie's death in the slightest yet this season? Not really. She's fine. That's why the whole fucking thing doesn't work. Oh boy. Moving on to Arrow. Season 4, Episode 3, Restoration. Excuse me. 1 second. Damien Dark sends a new metahuman after the Green Arrow, forcing Oliver and Dig to finally put their differences aside. Meanwhile, in Nanda Parbat, Laurel wants Malcolm Merlin to bring Sarah back to life with the Lazarus Pit, and they do, but with uncertain results. I don't have too much to say about this one. It was a pretty straightforward episode here. The main plot was not as interesting as the character stuff. I mean, there's this new metahuman to deal with, Double Down, who I've never heard of, and it's kind of a stupid name, so I'm going to call him Not Gambit. Honestly, this guy was kind of lame. He has the power to form real-life playing cards out of his tattoos. That's not the coolest metahuman power you could end up with. He manages to hold his own against Green Arrow in a fight, but then he gets fended off by Felicity with a machine gun that she was firing with her eyes closed. Not sure how you get from point A to point B there. And then he faces Oliver and Dig, and they beat him incredibly easily. So, not Gambit was a pretty underwhelming villain, all things considered. But he did serve his purpose as a vehicle for Oliver and Dig to sort their shit out, and that's where the good stuff was. I'm glad they decided to wrap that up here. I understand that Dig... I understand Dig being mistrustful of Oliver now, but you can only drag that out for so long, especially when Oliver was weighing the safety of Dig's family against the safety of the entire city. So, Dig has a right to be upset about that, but, you know, before too long, you gotta tell him to snap out of it. So thank you, Felicity, for that. So I think they play that up for just long enough to get the point across without it becoming stupid or redundant. So good pacing with that there, and it's cathartic to see them back on the same page. So that was all pretty well handled, I thought. Also, it was just really fun to see Felicity finally put her foot down with these two alpha males and tell them to work their shit out already, or she was going to put them in the corner and for a timeout or something. I love how she just shut them both down. That was funny. But once again, the best stuff in the episode is the Thea story. This is very interesting to me. They're really delving into exactly how the Lazarus Pit has changed her and the price that she has to pay for being saved the way she was. Now she has this bloodlust that needs to be satisfied, and this is an urge that she has to fight against, and it's by a huge margin the most fascinating stuff they've given Willa Holland to work with so far on this show. And it paints a pretty scary picture about what might happen to Sarah now. Though I do wish they'd played up Thea's horror more in the scene where she was attacked by those assassins and she kills them. I mean, those were the first lives that she's taken officially, and the moment just sort of passes without her really acknowledging that at all. You know, I wanted a moment where she was like, oh shit, I just killed two people, what have I done? But we didn't get that. Maybe that's the point. Maybe she doesn't care because of what's going on with her right now, but it felt like a wasted opportunity to me. But that's really a minor complaint. Still loving the Thea stuff overall. Although, the League of Assassins, man, these guys just suck. They suck. Seriously, they're fucking pathetic. Every single fight they have, they come at the good guys with a big numbers advantage, and they get their asses kicked. Shouldn't the deadliest killers on Earth be better fighters than this? It's really disappointing how they turned out. Whatever. But hey, look at this. Another week, and Laurel did not annoy me. This was actually pretty cool. She wants Malcolm Merlin to bring Sarah back with the Lazarus Pit. Malcolm says no for reasons that are actually very good and justifiable. And Nyssa is surprisingly in agreement with him, which is pretty crazy. You know, it really highlights how irrational Laurel is being about this, and not in an unlikable way. And it makes for a really good scene with her and Nyssa. And Nyssa is like, you know, I loved Sarah too, but she's gone. Even if this worked and you brought her back, it wouldn't be Sarah. It would be some twisted, monstrous version of her. You know, it's better to let her rest in peace. And you can't see that. Because you're not making this about Sarah. You're making it about you and your inability to let go of your grief. And Nyssa is right. That's exactly what Laurel's doing. And it's a really thoughtful view into Laurel's mindset right now. And you know, Laurel doesn't come across like an idiot or an intolerable character like she was in season 2. Just someone who wants her sister back so much that she won't listen to reason. And it's actually really good stuff. And it's a great cliffhanger to leave on with Sarah. Everything they warned Laurel about has happened. Sarah's alive, but she's not Sarah. She's like some kind of mindless beast in Sarah's body, which is really cool. Like, I can't wait to see how John Constantine fixes that. So that was all very nicely handled. Also, I am very glad that they tied up that dangling plot thread with the Lazarus Pit. Okay, apparently that won't be a thing anymore, thanks to Nyssa. I'm very glad about that. So now we don't have to deal with that particular Deus Ex Machina every time a character dies on this show. So we don't have this magical pit that can save someone and bring them back to life every time someone dies. That's off the table. I'm very glad about that. So that was all very nicely done. The character stuff was very good here. Not Gambit was kind of lame, but he was really just there to service the characters. The only really dumb thing here was in the opening fight sequence, where Felicity uses her computer to hack into construction equipment. Even with my very limited knowledge of computers, I'm pretty sure that's not possible. Unless you can access a backhoe with an internet connection, I'm pretty sure you can't do that. That aside, another good episode of Arrow here. All the character beats worked, and they're setting up some pretty interesting things with Sarah, Legends of Tomorrow, and Hive and stuff like that. It's good. It's more of a setup episode than anything else, but it's a good setup episode. So well done on this one. I like this episode. I have no idea how Felicity hacked into fucking construction equipment, though. The fuck was that about? The Save Me one. Is it just me, or did Merlin just sign his or Thea's death warrant? If killing the person responsible is the only way to get over the Lazarus Pit, it seems like Sarah will have to take one of them down. Maybe. Maybe Constantine will circumvent that somehow. Let's see, Costaladius. I think 7 of 9 should have ran for mayor instead of Jessica Danforth. Yeah, I think 7 of 9 would have been less hesitant to back down if, her daughter was kidnapped. Of course, 7 was kind of an emotionless robot for most of Voyager's run. Wasn't really in touch with her emotions. I think she could probably compartmentalize that stuff. Gore492, glad to see Felicity is back to not crying 24/7. Having her back as the smart and awkward character is the best thing for him. Yeah, I'm glad Felicity's back to being funny, too. Not that she's bad at the crying stuff. She's actually very good at it. But she's pretty much the only character on this show that we can count on for any levity or comedy. And Emily Bett Rickards is really good at that stuff. So, yeah, I'm glad Felicity's back to being funny. Costaledius, spoiler alert, John Constantine does something with Sarah which pretty much reverses the effects of the Lazarus Pit. I don't think that's a spoiler, actually. No, they've gotten the word out about that. Yeah. Gore492, I'm very interested to see how Constantine is going to help fix Sarah and Thea. Yeah, he might be able to help Thea too. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Let's see. That gaming asshole. I wasn't really as hard on the League of Assassins last year as you were, but yeah, they get destroyed way too easily. This is like the 6th time that they've been outmaneuvered by the Arrow team, who have repeatedly gone into this fortress with a plan no more sophisticated than break-in fight scene Bouncio. Double Down is, I think, a Flash villain. Maybe. I believe in the comics he uses metal playing cards and isn't a meta, but I don't know who he really is. The fact that he gets ganked by Felicity doesn't speak to his powers too well, but he looks cool. Also, they teased Mr. Terrific's powers with his T-Sphere drones and stealth technology. I noticed that. He'll be suiting up by the end of the season. Didn't he get hit in the head in this episode? What's that about? I don't know. he was injured in the fight with not Gambit, and they took him to the hospital. Thank God they brought Sarah back. Now she can be Black Canary again, and we can write Laurel off the show, right? Yeah, please. I don't think so. I think Sarah is going to Legends of Tomorrow, and I think Laurel is staying where she is. Also, there are about 1,000 pits. You can mass produce them, so no, they'll get another one. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. This is the only Lazarus pit that we know of on Arrow. That might be the only one in this universe. And moving on. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, Episode 4, Devils You Know. S.H.I.E.L.D. and the ATCU have teamed up to find Lash, who is still hunting and killing Inhumans. Fitz finds out that Simmons wants to go back to the alien planet, and Hunter's plan to infiltrate Hydra lands him in a firefight with Ward much sooner than expected. A firefight which goes horribly wrong and ends with May's ex-husband Andrew getting killed. Or was he? Not necessarily. First, we got Hunter and Ward. Hunter is so obsessed with getting to Ward that he's being incredibly reckless, walks right into the lion's mouth with no backup, just on the off chance that he might be able to kill Ward before his cover is blown. And credit where it's due, he did actually get a piece of Ward at the end there. He got a shot at him, and he hit Ward, so Ward took a bullet there. But Hunter didn't really have an exit strategy in case, backup didn't arrive when it did. So I don't know how he was planning to get out of that. In fact, I'm fairly certain he wasn't planning to get out of that. Really tense scene here. I hope there's another encounter between Hunter and Ward, because that could be a lot of fun with the barbs they could trade between them. I was really enjoying that. They were this close to throwing Yo Mama jokes back and forth at one point. I was hoping it was Bobby. Then it might be a fair fight. And yeah, I heard about that. It took two of you after torturing her for hours, and yeah, it was some fun stuff there. So it was like a nice little bit of dark comedy before things got serious, with Ward dangling Andrew in front of May like a worm on a hook. And Hunter actually calling his bluff, which, Ward's probably not the kind of guy you want to do that with, which leads to Andrew supposedly getting blown up. And just when Hunter and May were getting along, too. Damn it. So, yeah, he came really close, probably closer than he had any right to, but Hunter's plan to get to Ward kind of blew up in his face, or Andrew's face. So let's talk about this plan of his and why I actually like this. First of all, Hunter's plan sucked. There's no denying that. It sucked, but the writers aren't trying to deny it. They're actually very upfront about it. This was a terrible plan. And May, as much as says so more than once, you haven't thought this through, you don't have enough intel, there's too many things that can go wrong, but Hunter's not listening. And this is why it works. Hunter came up with this terrible plan to infiltrate Hydra so he could get a shot at Ward entirely out of desperation. He was so emotional about the Bobby situation, so worked up about wanting to take Ward out before Bobby got back in the field and was put in danger again, that he wasn't thinking clearly. He knows Bobby is going to want to go after Ward once she's healthy, and he's hell-bent on removing Ward before that happens. This is about Hunter getting revenge on Ward for what he did to Bobby, because it's the next best thing to somehow saving Bobby from getting shot by Ward in the first place. And yes, Hunter was being completely irrational here. That's not in question. And not listening to anyone telling him so. It's a big character flaw for Hunter, a huge mistake on his part, and it works because that's exactly the way they play it as. Hunter fucked up big time here. And now there's a price to be paid. Andrew's dead, unconfirmed. May is going to hate Hunter for this, most likely. And Ward is going to have an even bigger score to settle with S.H.I.E.L.D. now than he did before. As a result, Hunter's going to be up shit creek. He'll learn from this mistake and probably not make it again. And that's okay. I think a lot of the time, the viewers of a show, tend to put characters on pedestals and expect them to be perfect and always make the right decisions. And that's not how this works. People and characters, fictional or non-fictional, they don't always do the right decisions. They don't always do the smartest thing or what's best for them. Characters are supposed to be flawed. Sometimes they make mistakes and screw up. That's how they learn and grow. I mean, yeah, Hunter did a stupid thing, but it was intended to be a stupid thing, so he could have this learning experience so as to smarten up, realize where he went wrong, and not do a stupid thing next time. And this, I felt, worked, as opposed to all the stupid things that Barry Allen does on The Flash, which are usually not presented as learning experiences and don't make him pay any kind of price, causing Barry to just go through this never-ending cycle where he makes the same mistakes over and over again. So in that sense, the Hunter thing worked here, in my opinion, whereas the Barry stuff usually doesn't. Moving on, the Lash plot is back this week. Cool. And this guy is very quickly turning into one of my favorite villains on the show that they've done so far. He's scary, mysterious. I mean, if you're likening a villain to a great white shark, that's a good villain. Although Daisy loses respect points if she hasn't seen Jaws. Who the fuck hasn't seen Jaws? The movie's a classic, for Christ's sake. So they peel back a few layers on the Lash situation here. And it turns out that it's a lot more complex than it seemed at first. He's hunting and killing Inhumans, yes, but not indiscriminately. There's a method to his madness. What's more, he might not even be a bad guy, or at least he doesn't even see himself that way. And they were definitely pointing to that being And they were definitely pointing to that being the case at the end when he says, "I'm not merciful, I'm necessary." Excuse me. Necessary because of what? Why is he necessary? Are they doing a version of Lash's story from the comics where he believes he's doing the right thing and keeping the Inhuman bloodline strong by weeding out and killing anyone he deems unworthy? Or is it something else? Maybe he's on some kind of mission here, but what kind of mission? We don't know. This is interesting. And we still have more questions than answers when it comes to Lash, but we do learn some things here. The biggest being that he has a human form he can shift back into, which I think is new. And it explains how he's able to just disappear when they haven't been able to find him. Because he could be anybody, a friend, a coworker, someone we know. This is a really cool mystery. So who do we think Lash is, though? They made a point to not show us his human form, so he's got to be a character we already know, probably. That tends to be how TV works. There were a few teases here. One for Rosalind Price, obviously a red herring. She's way too obvious, and when we saw the shadow, it was clearly a dude. So it's most likely a man, unless he can change genders. Possible. Maybe not probable. But I think we can rule her out. Although, wouldn't it be amazing if she was Lash? Not for any story-related reason, but mainly because I have this scenario in my head where Rosalind Price and Coulson finally give in to their simmering chemistry, have wild, sweaty hate sex, and she morphs into Lash mid-coitus. Can you even imagine? Goodbye erection, oh my god. Worst coitus interruptus ever. It's so insanely fucked up, it would be a crime not to do it. So that's fun to fantasize about. But like I said, she's almost definitely a red herring. The other tease was for Rosalind's right-hand guy. I think his name is Banks. They made a point to mention that he ran off in a hurry right before Lash's attack on the truck. So he's a possibility, but I think he's also a little too obvious. So that could have been a misdirect. which leads me to door number 3. And this is the one I think would make the most sense, have the most potential, and be the coolest twist. The one I think all the signs are pointing to, Andrew, May's ex-husband. Now, I can't take credit for this theory. This is something I read on Tumblr, and it's been spreading pretty quickly. A lot of people are getting in on this. But the second I read it, a lot of details started to click into place. Andrew and Lash are both in a position where they're judging Inhumans, whether they're worthy of living or whether they're fit to be on the SHIELD team. Andrew supposedly left May on their vacation for unspecified reasons, right around the time that Lash first started showing up. Andrew, being this Inhuman killer, could be the impetus for May returning to SHIELD because he was one of the big reasons why she wanted a life outside of SHIELD in the first place. And just think about what this revelation would do to her. Just think about it. I mean, she's horrified. Yeah, she thinks he's dead. Then he turns out to be alive. She's relieved. And then, oh shit, he's become an Inhuman killing machine. How long has this been going on? There's so much they could do with that. Lash knew that Daisy was in the truck. He had her dead to rights. He could have killed her right there, but he didn't. He looked at her, then he walked away. And if you think about it, Lash has never actually attacked Daisy before. They fought in the hospital in the season premiere, but he was definitely after Lincoln in that scene. I don't think he expected her to be there. And he never actually attacked her. Why not? Why let her live here? Unless he had some kind of pre-existing connection with her. Early in the episode, we saw Lash fighting and killing one of the Ginger Ninjas, the multiple woman's clones. Later on, we see Andrew watching her at the SHIELD base. Maybe he's just looking in on a patient. Maybe it's more than that. If you rewatch the scene with Andrew and Simmons, assuming that he's secretly Lash, that whole conversation is full of subtext and hidden meanings. And then the biggest indicator of all, when Strucker Jr. confronted Andrew in the convenience store, he had 2 Hydra goons with him. But when Strucker ran out of the store, he was alone, looking scared shitless. And we never actually saw Andrew's dead body. We saw a body, but that could have been anyone. You know, that could have been one of the Hydra goons that Andrew killed as Lash in order to escape. It makes sense, doesn't it? It all adds up. And best of all, this would mean that Andrew is still alive and we get more Blair Underwood. And that guy is too good of an actor to not do something big with. This is a really fascinating scenario here. And yeah, I think it's the best option, the most compelling option. It's also possible that it could be one big fake out and maybe Banks is Lash after all. And this was all just like an elaborate ruse to make us think in a different direction. We don't know. I can't wait to find out, though. And if Andrew is Lash, we should know pretty soon because Strucker Jr. must have seen something. So in the next week or two, they could blow the lid off this whole thing. And the final plot thread was Simmons needing to get back to Death by Punishment world. And this was kind of in a holding pattern for the week. We don't get a lot of movement here because there was a lot of other stuff going on that had to take precedent. And we get a few ominous tidbits from Simmons about how she lost hope on that planet, which may be tied into why she has to go back there. I'm guessing it is, but mostly it's just building up to Fitz finding that out. I do wish we could have learned more about that situation, but it just wasn't possible because of time constraints. And answers about that whole thing are coming up when they pull the trigger on that next week. When they tell the story of how Simmons survived on that planet for months. And supposedly this is going to be pretty shocking. And according to the press release, that's going to be like the whole episode. That's like the whole episode is just Simmons on Death by Punishment world trying to survive, apparently. So get excited for that. Another really good episode here. You can see how they're sowing the seeds for Marvel's Most Wanted now. The stuff with Lash is really cool with the potential for a pretty huge bombshell when they reveal who he is. And I think that's coming up sooner than we think. And I think the Hunter stuff makes for some really good drama regardless, or perhaps because of how disastrous his plan turned out. So another strong outing from Shield here this week. Really good stuff. Damn. A second. Okay. Zach Harris, holding out hope that Andrew managed to escape. Yeah, me too. Yeah, a dead giveaway is that they never actually showed him dead. We saw a body that could have been anyone, and it's one of the cardinal rules of TV. If you don't see a body, assume they're still alive. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that he's still breathing. Gore492, do you think it's possible that Andrew could be Lash? Yes, I do. I very much do. I think it will be awesome. The Save Me One. May has always been the ice queen of the show. It's going to be interesting to see how her character deals with grief over Andrew. Yeah, it would be interesting to see how, if anything's changed. We kind of know how she's dealt with grief for the first 2 seasons, but she's kind of regained a little bit of humanity since then, so she might react differently this time. Unless she's regressed, which is, it's May, so that's possible. Wanting Ward dead, being pissed at Hunter, and maybe Bobby too, by connection. And when she finds out about the Coulson and Rosalind thing all going on at the same time. No, I think she would take the Coulson-Rosalind thing okay. I mean, would she take it personally if Coulson struck up a relationship with this woman? I don't think so. I think she'd be concerned that he might be compromised because of it. Would it bother her that Coulson was started a relationship with someone? I think she'd be okay with it. Yeah, I mean, as much as some people like to ship Felinda, I don't know that Felinda is actually a thing. I mean, I've never really saw these two in a romantic context before. I don't. I mean, obviously they're close friends and comrades. I think there's a connection between them since they've known each other since the academy. I think there's a little bit of an attraction there, but not enough to compromise either of them in any significant way. I mean, Coulson's never shown any jealousy about her and Andrew, so I don't think that would be a thing. I really don't. Zach Harris, Hunter really screwed the pooch on this one, didn't he? Yep. And I think it was intended for him to screw the pooch. That's not one of those facepalm moments where a character does something stupid, but it's not meant to be that way. No, he had a bad plan. Everyone said it was a bad plan. He was being irrational, and he didn't think things through, and it backfired. That was the intent of the storyline. So Hunter could screw up, and now he has to learn from it and pay a price for it. So he screwed the pooch, but that was the intent of the whole thing. The Save Me One. One downside to the episode is I wish we could have seen more of Alicia in this episode, but I'm sure she will end up as a secret warrior now. Dude, I was just glad we got to see her at all. I mean, she was really cool in the season 2 finale. I was like, oh man, I hope they bring her back. And I was so happy that we got to see her again. And they got her at the base, and I guess she's agreed to work with them, at least in some capacity. So Maybe we'll see her again. Cool. I love the Ginger Ninja. That was really nice. Zach Harris. One of the reasons I love Marvel is because they're generally good at writing characters who have obvious flaws, but still strive to do the right thing. There you go. That's what they're going for with Hunter. He has good intentions. This whole thing was born out of his desire to protect Bobby and to keep her safe before she gets back in the field. Not at 100%, and goes after Ward and maybe gets herself killed again. Or injured again. It's not rational. But his heart's in the right place. It's just he's not thinking with his brain. And yeah. Like I said, characters are supposed to have flaws. They don't always do the right thing, and expecting them to do that is, well, it's not how writing works. Your characters need to be imperfect, otherwise they're not real characters. Gore492, I think if Andrew is Lash, then we will finally see the weak side of May. We'll send her over the edge if this turns out to be the case. I really hope so. We're in season 3 now, and we've never really seen May be vulnerable, except in the Bahrain flashbacks. Post Bahrain, she's always been like a stone wall, and never really cracking, except maybe a little bit around Coulson and maybe Daisy, but yeah, she's for the most part she's Miss Stoneface, and I'm very curious to see what it would take for May to just completely fall apart and just completely lose her cool and go nuts. I think if anything was going to do it, this might do it, and that's one of the main reasons why I hope Andrew is Lash, because what it would do to May, I think, would be fascinating. Okay, Heroes in Gotham. We'll get to that later. The Save Me one. I don't think Lash could be Rosalind. Remember when Rosalind walked off with her men and Coulson followed between them? Then we saw Lash's human form in the shadows behind Daisy and Mac. Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's her. Pretty obvious red herring there. I just threw it out there because, they did tease it. They said, Lash, he could be anyone. And then Rosalind walks in. And Coulson gives her this look like, whoa, shit. Yeah, they threw a tease out there, but it's very unlikely that it's her. Michael Walker, I'm curious as to what happened to Gemma on that planet. Oh, so am I. They've definitely been teasing that it's something pretty shocking. I suspect it's something to do. I suspect they're going to do they're going for some kind of parallel with Fitz in his storyline from last season. You remember last season, he thought that she gave up on him when she left. What I think they're going for is Simmons, during her time on that planet, coming to believe that Fitz gave up on her. They revealed in the sneak peek clip that they posted online. We see Simmons just when she's arrived on the planet, and she's, Fitz will find me. I'll be okay. Yeah, we're going to dinner. He'll find me, no problem. It'll be any minute now. And I think the next episode is going to chronicle how she went from that point to thinking that Fitz gave up on her, and she loses all hope, and then does something that she now has to go back and rectify. That's what I think they're going for. What that thing is, I don't know, but they were definitely teasing it. In that conversation with Andrew, he says, was there a specific moment when you lost hope? And then she says, I'd rather move backwards than forwards. She evades the question. So there's definitely a specific moment when that happened. And that's the moment when I think that's the thing that she has to fix. What exactly she did or what happened in that moment, I'm not sure. but supposedly it's going to be pretty startling. That giving asshole, I think that Hyde is Lash, since it explains his transformation, and more importantly, he has a reason to hate Inhumans. It's the only explanation that makes sense. No, there are other explanations that make sense. I think they pretty well established that Hyde was not an Inhuman last season. That's why he had to create artificial powers for himself, because he didn't have them naturally. There are other explanations for that make more sense. I mean, they pretty much wrapped him up. Yeah, they put him through the Tahiti protocols. He has no memory of that whole situation anymore. They gave him a whole new identity. And I imagine they would be keeping tabs on him if his programming had broken and he was turning into a killer, into like a 7-foot monster. I think they'd have some idea. No, I don't think it's Hyde at all. Plus, if they were bringing back Kyle MacLachlan, there would have been noise about it. We would have heard something. The Save Me one. It was good to see Daisy finally address the elephant in the room with Coulson and Rosalind. Yeah, that was funny, wasn't it? Oh, so it's Rosalind now, huh? You two on a first-name basis? The chemistry between those two is ridiculous. I love that the other characters are picking up on it so fast. Dude, those two have got to hook up at some point. They can't not do it. It's X-Files question. Get to that in a minute. Zach Harris. Since next week's episode is going to show what Simmons went through on that alien planet, do you think the fact that we know she survived and was rescued will water down any suspense? No. I imagine they took that into account. I don't think the suspense isn't going to come from wondering if she'll be rescued or not. The suspense is going to come what she did before she was rescued, because that's the reason why she has to go back. The suspense comes from knowing that she did something that is going to force her to go back to this alien hellhole, and we don't know what that was. And I think that's where it's going to come from. So I'm not concerned about that. They wouldn't have brought her back so soon if they didn't have a plan. And I think they would have. I think they will have accounted for that. So I'm not concerned about that. Jacob Walton, I think Lash just needs to stay Lash and no one else. Plus, Matthew Willig is doing well as Lash. I still say it's just a setup to abduct Andrew and fake his death, only for Ward to have him as bait again for May. Possibly. They didn't. Okay, they never actually showed what happened in that convenience store. It's possible that maybe he had one of his Hydra goons kill the other and pose as Andrew so as to fake Andrew's death, and then so that if they could have Andrew as a hostage to use against May later on, that could have happened. We don't really know. Maybe they'll flash back to what really happened in there. But yeah, that's totally something that Ward would do. Maybe this be the final confrontation between May and Ward, where Ward kills May and either Bobby, Hunter, or Daisy then kills Ward. Yeah, it does. They do give the impression that they're building up to some kind of big showdown between May and Ward. I mean, they've done that in the last 2 season finales. So, I mean, there's definitely a big score to settle there. So I would not be surprised at all. And I don't think the odds are in May's favor this time. I mean, she's gotten the better of him twice, but Ward's still kicking. He definitely he definitely blames her for a lot of stuff now. So I mean, there's a reason why he's still around, and they built him up to the point where he's going to have to cause some serious shit. Otherwise, it may not feel authentic. I mean, I think him killing May, I don't think that's out of the question at all. I think that's pretty likely. I think Lash just needs to be Lash and no one else. I don't know if I agree with that. I really like the idea that he could have a human identity. We don't. And plus, he hasn't really been in the comics that long, so I mean, it's conceivable that he could have a human form. We just haven't seen it yet. Yeah, Matthew Willig is doing well. I think it adds a whole new element to this thing. Excuse me. I think it adds a whole new element if he could be masquerading as someone else. So I don't necessarily agree with that. Jacob Walton, thoughts on Powers Booth coming in as Gideon Malik, and do you think he could be a disciple of the Red Skull or a new Hydra head because the dude can play a bad guy so well? Yeah, he does play a good bad guy, doesn't he? Which kind of makes you think, because we previously saw him as part of the World Security Council in the first Avengers movie. So is he playing the same guy? Because Nick Fury was taking orders from him. I would hope that he's not Hydra. I was hoping that he's not a disciple of the Red Skull, because he's ordering Nick Fury around. He's part of a group of people that had the nuclear launch codes, apparently. So that's not good. Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited. Powers Booth. Few people play bad as well as he does. So that's good. Powers Booth could be Lash. Yeah, potentially. Like I said, they hid his real appearance from us, his human appearance. So if he's not a character that we've already seen, he's got to be a character that we're going to see fairly soon. So yeah, Powers Booth, he could be Lash. Never know. The Save Me one, what if Trip somehow turned out to be Lash? Well, when last we saw Trip, he had turned to stone and broken into a million pieces. Not sure how you become Lash from that. If someone in the Marvel Universe has developed a cure for turning to stone and breaking into a million pieces, then I guess it's possible. Pretty sure he's not an Inhuman, though. He reacted differently than Daisy and Raina did. They were encased in cocoons. The cocoons, encased all of them, including their clothes, whereas Trip turned to stone and the clothes stayed the same. So, but what happened to him is not what happened to them. Plus, I mean, the producers already confirmed that he was dead. If Lash was also Trip, that would be a hell of a twist. I don't know how the fuck they'd explain it, though. That would probably be a jump the shark moment. That gaming asshole. I have to duck out before the stream is over. GG as usual. Love the show. Cool. Thanks for joining us. Tune in next. Talk to you next week. Cool. Okay. If you have any thoughts about anything else, have at it. I will answer everything. Okay. Gore492, Supergirl can't be worse than Gotham, right? I don't see how it could be. It's got Greg Berlanti working on it, and Greg Berlanti had his hands in Arrow and the Flash. which are both much better shows than Gotham. I'm going to give it a chance. Just going by what I've seen, I don't think the tone is going to really grab me. I don't think it's going to be a show aimed specifically at me and my demographic. So I don't know if I'll be in love with it, but maybe it could be okay. It could be a good show. Okay, it's just. Duke Nukem 3DO. He's Captain Cold. What do you expect? What do you expect? As regarding why he can put up such a good fight against the Flash when he's just a guy with a gun. No, I don't buy that. That's bullshit, and you know it. It doesn't matter if he's Captain Cold. Look what he did in this episode. He talked to Barry for a minute, then he just pulled out a gun and shot Barry. Doesn't matter if he's Captain Cold. Anybody could have fucking done that. He didn't do any special thing that only Captain Cold would do. No, he pointed a gun at Barry and he fired. That's all. And it worked. Barry got hit with the cold gun and he was down. Anybody could have done that. And yet, when Barry gets shot later in the episode, he catches the bullet in midair. So why can he do it then, but he can't evade the cold blast from Captain Cold? It's just it's inconsistencies like that bug the crap out of me. And I don't like it when people make excuses. Oh, he's just Captain Cold. That's all. That's not an excuse. That's not a reason. That's not an explanation. That's bullshit. Let's see. HBE Hain 4441. Has Kitty Cassidy's acting improved where she knows that she's on the show? You stated at one point that Kitty Cassidy acts like she's on the wrong show. Yeah, somewhat. I think my complaint was that the actress seemed like she was on a different wavelength from everyone else. So far this season, she seems okay. I mean, they haven't really given her anything really big to chew on yet. But for what she's done, I thought she's been all right. Maybe her acting has gotten better, or maybe they've just figured out how to write around her weaknesses so that it's less obvious. I don't know, but Laurel has been better this season so far. Okay, the Save Me one. Why Andrew may be lashed for these reasons. 1, he left May and didn't give a reason. 2, he didn't kill Daisy. Also true. 3, Baron's son was terrified when he fled that store. Yes, exactly. 4, he has access on intel and outsmarted 2 agencies. Also true. 5, he was pissed about not knowing about Alicia. All true things. But it makes so much sense that it may not happen. S.H.I.E.L.D. has always been good at getting the audience looking one way and then doing something different. Victoria Hand is the clairvoyant, for example. Yeah, that was a great twist, wasn't it? Yeah. All great points. Like I said, they did tease, a couple of people here. I think it could very easily be Banks. We don't know. Or someone else. Maybe it could be Powers Booth. There are several possibilities, but I do think the potential for some really cool stuff and just the possibilities with what they could do with Andrew as Lash kind of overrides the fact that it might not be the most shocking outcome ever. I think it makes a ton of sense for him to be Lash, and yeah. Yes. HB Hain 4441. Are you excited about Constantine making an appearance? Yeah. Constantine the show had its problems, but Matt Ryan was not one of them. I thought he was great in the role, so I'm really excited to see him again. Uh, no, that. Okay, that gaming asshole. Weekly Heroes of Gotham reviews. Penguin's mom is alive somehow. Catwoman and Firebug are on an arsonist crusade. Gallivant is definitely Roz, since he has just been revealed as a member of an ancient sect who want to cleanse Gotham. His hot daughter has a thing for Bruce, and he's obsessed with fire and burning down cities. So yeah, Roz. One of the Strike Force guys died to firebugs, so now Gordon is gunning for Catwoman's hide. Really? Huh. 13. Gordon's hunting 13-year-old Selena, huh? Okay, good luck, Gordon. In Heroes, Knives Chow is definitely Hero's daughter, but she died to save him. Wow, I have not seen that episode yet. She died? Wow. Poor Not Pilgrim. He's inches away from that premium Japanese booty and then poof, gone. Sad. It turns out the villains are from the future and they intend to bring about an apocalypse using a solar flare. Teleporter Boy and Weather Girl are both related, apparently. Also, Claire is totally alive, and Hero and Noah are going back to find out what destroyed Odessa. Oh, God. Don't tell me Claire's not alive. For fuck's sake. I was so happy when I thought they killed her off. Let's see. Coastal Edius. Here's a theory on the return of the Cancer Man in the X-Files miniseries. I'll bet he was cloned, just like Mulder's sister was. That, or it's a flashback. With the lone gunmen, supposedly they fake their own deaths to go into a deeper cover. That, or it's a hallucination like the final episode. Okay. They fake their deaths. Okay, I could buy that. Maybe the Cancer Man was a clone. Oh, Christ. It's just more and more and more layers of this stuff, and it just gets more convoluted as it goes along. It's just, at one point, it's like, well, and haven't they killed the Cancer Man like 10 times already? And they said he was dying of lung cancer, and then like five seasons later, he's still there, and then they kill him in the finale, and then he's alive again. It's just, at some point, it just starts to feel like they're jerking us around with that. Okay. That gaming. No, wait. Michael Walker. What role did Dwight Fry play in this episode? And are they going to utilize him like they did the Ginger Ninja? Dwight Fry. I don't know who that is. Was he the guy who? Was he that dude who was working with Lash? Hold on. No, that's. Oh, for fuck's sake. Hold on. I am looking up Dwight Fry on IMDb. trying to find out who he was playing in this episode. Oh, for God's sake. There we go. Season 3, episode 4. Guest cast. Dwight Fry was actually the character's name, played by Chad Lindberg. Oh yeah, he was the guy. He was the guy that Lash got to send emails to various Inhumans with a virus attached that would allow Lash to track them down. And now he's dead. Now Lash killed him. So he will not be utilized in the future, most likely. Now he's got a big hole in his chest. He's pretty dead. So that is that. The Save Me one. Heroes Reborn killed off Miko. What dumbasses? She was the only one I liked. Really, they killed her off. Wow, that is surprising. Her power was bizarre. She was one of the more enjoyable characters, though. That's weird. Would not have expected that. The Save Me one. What do you think of Supergirl and Gotham going head-to-head on Monday night? Seems to me they will split the DC and superhero audiences and hurt both in the ratings. Potentially. I don't think, Gotham isn't exactly a ratings juggernaut. If anything, I think Supergirl might end up leeching some viewers away from Gotham. I don't think it'll hurt Supergirl. If Supergirl was airing opposite a show like Empire or something, that would hurt Supergirl. But no, Supergirl and Gotham going head to head. No, I don't think it'll hurt both of them. I think it might hurt Gotham. No, I think the odds are more in Supergirl's favor in that one. Let's see. Zach Harris, did you hear about Kurtwood Smith being on season 2 of Agent Carter? He was Red Foreman on that 70s show. Yeah, I heard about that today. I hope he calls someone a dumbass. I hope he calls Peggy a dumbass. That would be awesome. Zach Harris, now when Agent Carter season 2 starts, I want to hear Kurtwood Smith's character tell someone he's going to put his foot up their ass in Red Foreman style. Yeah, exactly. Michael Walker, I would have much preferred that Gotham be a series of events that revolved around the Bat family taking a play from the Battle for the Cowl arc. Although I'm not that big on comics, I think that would have been a hell of a lot better. Well, a lot of things would have been a hell of a lot better than what they did. Fish, Mooney, Barbara. A lot of things would have been better than that. The Save Me one. The Jessica Jones official trailer drops tomorrow. Yes, very excited. They've had 3 or 4 teasers by now. I wasn't sure if we were actually going to get a bigger trailer, but yeah, we get an official trailer. Get debuts tomorrow, and I'm pretty stoked about that. Pretty stoked. Michael Walker, my bad. I forgot he was killed. Yeah, he's dead. Unless part of his inhuman power is healing from a giant hole in your chest. Anything else? No, that seems to be it. Okay. About 11:30, I think. All right, I think that's a good place to stop for tonight. Thanks, everyone, for joining me. And next week, we got Supergirl coming out. Once again, I can't promise I'll talk about Supergirl every week, but I'll talk about the pilot, give my thoughts on that, and not too sure I'm going to like it, but I'll give it a shot. Although I don't think it's aired I don't think I'm part of the target audience for this thing, but we'll see. We'll see. So good stream tonight. Thanks everybody for joining me. Same time next week. And I will talk to you on Wednesday for the Impact review. Until then, over, out. Night.